Welcome to Game Changers live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. And welcome to Game Changers Live. You can catch us each and every week on your favorite podcast channels, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, you name it. We're always bringing you some very inspirational people. And as we continue the month of March, we are celebrating International Women's Month. And we have our guest today, which is Madeline Pumariega. She is the first female president appointed to the leading one of the nation's largest educational institutions, as you know, here in the 305, Miami-Dade College. Adding to her historic nature of appointments, the fact that she was an alumnus herself. Her love for academics and service excellence began as a student at MDC and continued during her 20 years of service at the college in positions of ascending responsibility, culminating in her role as Wolfson Campus president. Prior to becoming MDC's president, Pumariega was appointed the first female and Hispanic chancellor of the Florida college system. And during her tenure, several of the FCS's 28 colleges, which serves 800,000 plus students, rose in the rankings of U.S. News and World Report. She's a champion for youth. She serves in the community, takes stock in children, a statewide nonprofit focused on breaking the cycle of poverty by helping students complete their high school education and advance into post-secondary education and careers. So welcome to the show, first off.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergio. Thank you so much.
It's really an honor and a pleasure to have you here. One of the sound bites, let's say, that we heard, and one of the key attributes that a lot of people mention about you is that although you've achieved so many great things in both academic and professional career, is that you are from Hialeah, down to earth, roll up your sleeves kind of person. And that's hard to find. So tell me a little bit about what it was like for you growing up. What was that like for you?
Thanks. Like for many of us, I think that grew up in Miami in the 305 in Hialeah as setting the landscape, right? Many of our parents had come from Cuba. They were just working to get back on their feet again, bringing family from Cuba, helping them get on their feet. I think that when you grow up in a family like that really it's about bootstraps, hard work, roll up your sleeves. It's hard that as you ascend in your life and you have success, that those values don't stick with you because they're values that the people that were most close to you exhibited every day. Compassion, passion for family, seizing every opportunity that could be given to them, gratitude for this country. And when, folks say to me, why is Hialeah special to you? It's special to me because I think all of us growing up during that era in Hialeah, we're watching something really special happen in our community with our parents and grandparents and, building, I think, the Miami today, the Hialeah today, with a little of the flavor of the Hispanic, not just Cubans, but, Venezuelans and Colombians and everybody just coming together to live out the American dream.
One of the aspects of this program that I love is diving deep into what drives you every day. So what motivates you every day when you get up? What are you excited about?
For me, I think making a difference, right? I think that every day I know there's students out there in our community, just like I was, that needs an opportunity. And Miami-Dade College is that place. I always say for Miami to get it right, Miami-Dade College has to be right because we are that opportunity for so many students. And that's what motivates me and inspires me every day, that we're still not doing enough to reach every corner of our community to make sure that students see that they have a path to economic mobility, that they can get the skills that they need so they can compete the jobs that we're creating for. And I think the other thing that inspires me is the people that I work with. I have never met more dedicated folks, anybody that works at Miami-Dade College could be working at a university, could be working in the private sector. But when you ask them why they stay, it's really because of the mission and the dedication. And they inspire me every day, that I hope to lead them and lead us into just another era of tremendous success at the college.
You have a tremendous sense of purpose. Without purpose in life, what are we doing here, right? It's not about the money necessarily. It's not about the titles. Why do you have such a strong sense of purpose tied to service? Was that something that was shown to you by example, by your parents? Was that something that was just naturally in you growing up? Was there something that triggered that?
I think oftentimes people ask, where do you get your purpose? And I think that it's always a thread between passion and faith, that both of those things kind of come together for what your purpose is in life. And your purpose, as you get clear, are influenced by those two things. Something I'm really passionate about is making a difference. It's helping other people. And something that I'm very grounded is in my faith, that we all have this time on this earth, and how do you use your talents to make good and to help others. And when those two things come together, I can't think of a stronger path to do that, which is through the power of education. And I watched that with my mom, who was a school teacher, and that was infused, as you know, our parents always said, your education is the one thing that no one can ever take away from you. And so while they might have left and fled their country with a paper in hand or a suitcase in hand, their knowledge was their knowledge. And I think that the power of education really does transform lives and does bridge that opportunity between somebody who might be really talented, but just doesn't know how to get into the field or isn't connected with somebody that can help them. I think the college and Miami-Dade and education does that. It's the big equalizer of democracy, if you think about it.
That's right. Through the pandemic, there has been quite a lot of folks that have come to the realization that they are stuck in jobs that they don't, have a passion for. They've gotten there because, it was offered to them. It just happened to be down the right path. And I think it's been a wake-up call. MDC offers such a variety of programs that allow you to pursue your passion. And you've been very quick to have your finger on the pulse on understanding what the community needs and creating programs that serve that. How do you see that going towards the future, and how is that serving everyone?
So, I think it's a great question, because the education is changing. Not so much what you might teach in the classroom or via Zoom class or online, but I think that the next set of disruptions for higher education are consumer driven. If you look at the last decade, they were policy driven, a lot of policy making and all of that. I think that we are consumers of Uber. We're consumers of Amazon, of e-commerce. And we're going to have an expectation that anyone that we engage in, whether it's education, health, banking, e-commerce, has that personalization, that optimization. So we're moving out of an era of convenience, right? Convenience is 24/7, 7 days a week. And that was groundbreaking. Now, across really every sector, we move into optimization, which means a personalized experience, that you feel like, wow, the college knows me and I have this personal experience. And I think that opens the door for what's happening in technology in Miami, and everything that we're seeing from cloud computing and what we're doing with Amazon Web Services. Without a doubt, cybersecurity, right? It doesn't matter if you don't have to be in a cybersecurity company. The weakest link in any one of our companies is somebody who goes fishing on an email expedition and opens up the potential for a cyber attack. So cybersecurity cuts across all sectors. And then artificial intelligence, the way that we're gathering data and analytics that tell us information that can personalize that experience. And then I think currency. It's hard to not imagine what will happen in the fintech space and what blockchain technologies are going to allow for us to do. And so I think students will come more in through a non-credit pathway, then maybe find that they want to go ahead and stack those credentials into a degree, then a linear pathway that says, oh, I'm going to go get this degree. I think that we're seeing more and more students are coming and saying, you know what? I want to get these skills that are connected to this job. And our job is to create those skills then to high quality credentials that lead to a degree. So that whole ecosystem, the modernization of higher education, I think is so important if we're going to meet the momentum and the movement of what we're seeing around technology.
The advent of AI makes it possible to personalize things, right? And then people feel, like you said, that you know them. I mean, how many students are at MDC? You can't get to know everybody, right? So we need these tools to be able to give students that opportunity. Recently, you had some big news at MDC in the space of AI. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I love it. So we've had great partnerships. I think that one of the things in order for us to really meet the needs of industry is having the industry partners tell us how do we align curriculum and programs to the employees they need. So we formed a partnership with IBM to provide some of that intel, if you will, around AI. We were able to train our faculty around artificial intelligence. And then we really teamed up with the county mayor. You know, she's been a staunch advocate for making sure that everybody has an opportunity in the community. So the county invested $5 million. The city invested $2 million. The Downtown Development Authority invested $1 million, and we parlayed that into a historic night investment of $7 million so that we could really build a strong ecosystem of talent with the $15 million to create AI for all at our college, to launch MDC Tech, and to make sure that Miami positions itself to be the capital of capital. While we're not in the venture capital, we're in the human capital market. And probably there's only one thing that could stop this momentum, and that is companies not having a talented workforce. And that's what we believe as being the workforce engine of our community, is that we really are the contributors of talent into the ecosystem, you know, from a certificate to an associate's to a baccalaureate. So we're excited to be partnering. Not just Miami-Dade decided to do this, but that we got the philanthropic community, we got city government, county government, everybody together along with industry to drive that innovation.
Like they said in families, right? It takes a village to raise a child. In a sense, it takes a village, so to speak, all these entities to come together to really create that ecosystem where locals can prosper, because this movement has brought in quite a lot of dollars to to Miami, to South Florida, but it's also brought in talent. And I think you guys are playing a key role in making sure that we level up as a local community to make sure that we're getting those high paying jobs that are on the cutting edge.
Yeah, and I really do. I applaud both mayors, Francis Suarez and Daniela Levine Cava, because I think they've been really committed to making sure that we don't leave our folks behind, that the people in our community have access to the training to compete for those high paying jobs. And I think that's really important if we're thinking about economic prosperity and driving a talented workforce for our community.
So let me switch gears here for a minute. So as the first female president, this is something obviously very historic. What advice would you give to your younger self if you were able to do that?
You know, it's a great question. I think that one of the things is, you know, intuition, like trust yourself and trust that you're enough. And it's not really always your time. It's kind of like God's timing. And I think that sometimes I talk to young leaders and they want to be president overnight. And I tell them, I think what I would just say to myself, you know, trust the process, trust that you're gaining experience that matters, you know, and And I think sometimes rightfully so, you want to be successful, you get a little impatient. And I would just say that, because I think trusting the process and understanding that every experience that I went through, the good and the bad, helped me be a better leader today and to be ready to meet the moment. I think there is no other dangerous spot that you get the opportunity, but unfortunately you didn't have the skills, right? And while you had the best of intentions, you need the skills.
Yeah.
And there is a time in your career. It doesn't mean it's 20 years. But I do think that going through every one of the experiences makes you a better leader, so that when you arrive to the opportunity to lead one of the largest institutions in the country, you have that knowledge base from experience.
What appears to be an overnight success in a lot of industries, right, is really a 20-year overnight success. They don't, not everybody sees the sleepless nights and all the effort and the, the stress and so forth that comes with it. But by falling in love with the process of improvement, meaning, every day getting better, versus falling in love and putting all your hopes and dreams on the result, which is sometimes out of your control, you're able to control your life and your results that way. One of the things that you said on International Women's Day, which I loved, I think you were asked about what it meant to be a female leader. And you said, it's hard to believe what you can't see. That really was powerful for me. It really struck me hard, because at times, as we're growing, as we're, we believe in ourselves, but sometimes to a degree, right? And sometimes we need others to show us that they see something in us that we don't necessarily see in ourselves. So tell me about that quote and how important of a role it is to have some mentors or some coaches and people that really believe in you to elevate yourself.
When you're talking to entrepreneurs, right, there'll be things that say fail fast, right? In leadership, that isn't, right? Because leadership is about having a vision that you never do by yourself. It's bringing people along. So I think that the representation that someone sees themselves there, that it's possible, is really important, because then you believe. And then I think that leaders, we have the ultimate responsibility to grow people and to make sure that there's, it's easy if you're a leader and you come and you say, you know what, this person isn't working, let's offboard them. I don't necessarily have enormous regard for that. I have really high regard when a leader comes to me and says, I turned around this employee, working with them, I got them re-inspired, re-engaged, and they are feeling so good about themselves and the institution. To me, that's leadership. It's easy to go to the corner and sit there. No, leaders we've got to cultivate the next generation of leaders, and no one gets to this position by themselves, and no one stays in this position by themselves. And so I think that's an important piece, and I try to, drive myself every day to live to that standard.
So you have a daughter that you affectionately call Mini Me. And so she has obviously an incredible role model. Not everybody is that fortunate, and self-confidence and belief in themselves and so forth is a really important trait to have, that grit that you need in life, right? To survive, so to speak. We're going to get knocked down. It's how we get back up. How is that instilled in the community? I mean, how can we make that a reality for so many more people that perhaps don't have that influence in their life?
A caring adult, right? At the end of the day, there's one, as parents, there's no more of an important contribution to the world than raising someone who contributes back to the world, right? And I think that as leaders and as teachers and counselors, we can influence someone by just being a caring adult in their life. And I can look back to teachers that gave me, that saw something in me that I might not have seen walking the halls of my junior high. So we all have the power to influence somebody in a positive way, to say a positive word, to take someone and say, hey, I know you can do better and be better. And I think that's our obligation as the adults in the room. And that doesn't mean you need to have a title as president. You don't need a title to be a caring adult in a child's life, and you don't need a title to be an influencer
Right.
and influence for the good.
What do you do on your off time when you're not working, when you're not at events? What do you love to do? What are you passionate about outside of work and service?
The beach. I love the water. I think the water is like it fuels the soul. There's probably there's
There's truth to
really
that.
not a bad day on the beach. People that fish say there's never a bad day fishing, and there's never a bad day on the golf course. I think there's like not really ever a bad day on the beach. So that I love that, and I really love spending time with family. I have a large family made up of a lot of cousins, and they become like your best friends and brothers and sisters, and you get to see them from the little cousin that was a pain to this amazing father or amazing husband, or and so we spend time and love to joke about each other. We call each other like La Sangre. And around them, I am not the president. I'm just like Mad, Mad Madeline, or it's around my nieces and nephews. I'm just Nina, and I think that's really important. I know how blessed I am to have a family that are really my extended friends and get to be able to spend time with them. But certainly the beach is awesome, and spending time with my daughter is always a fun time. In those teenage years, they're the good, the bad, the ugly.
Oh boy.
All of it,
So I have a 9-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy. So I'm not there yet. So I'm going to have to call you to get some advice on the teenage years, because I hear they're quite harrowing.
They're rough. Remember when they're little, you just like give them a colored Band-Aid and you kiss them on the forehead, right? And they feel better, and you give them a hug. Teenagers, it's a little bit more difficult, but I always try to put myself like in her shoes. When we were teenagers, it's just a rough time in our lives. You're finishing high school, this era in your life, and you're kind of looking out to what's next. So I just try to always remember that isn't our most graceful time of growing, I think.
I asked this to all my guests, was there a time in your life that there was a game-changing moment in your life, or a series of events, or something that happened that really lit the light bulb, that really gave you your purpose in life? Or was there a time in your life where you experienced that?
I would say there's always different times in our lives, from growing up. I would say in my professional life, making the decision to leave Miami-Dade College after 20 years, and I was the president of the Wolfson Campus, seemed to be like a dream job. And I had breast cancer, and I think that was this aha moment about what else do you want to do? What else is there to do? It's easy to stay at the college, and I love my colleagues that have been there 30 and 40 years, and their commitment to service to the college is of admiration and respect. But I think the decision for me to say, you know what, I'm going to leave and go run a nonprofit, Take Stock in Children, across the state. And that was crazy, right? Like, I'm in this little rental car going in every county. Florida has 67 counties, in the backside of Florida through, and beginning to understand, yes, the role that South Florida plays in our state, but Florida. And I think that was really critical to then what happened next to become chancellor, and become chancellor of the system with an understanding of every community is special in their own way, whether you're in Miami or whether you're in North Florida or out by, Madison County. And those, I think, were important, moments, right? That aha moment to leave the college. Because what I do believe is that by leaving, I gained really valuable experience, and I got to see the college from the outside in. And now coming back as a leader, I think I make even more valuable contributions, knowing the landscape, the state legislature, the process, and just seeing how 28 colleges do it, and how do we bring a little bit of everything of them into doing it at the college and raising our level. So I would say that's an important game-changing moment. I think my mom might have freaked out when I said I was leaving. My dad must have thought, okay, you have a retirement. What do you mean you're leaving? So I think you got to sometimes make courageous decisions.
At times in our lives, we have these wake-up calls. I might have had great success, but in a way, you know, perhaps we're in a comfort zone and we kind of cruise and we kind of do the same thing over and over, and we're doing it well and we're serving a lot of people, but at times it may not be as fulfilling as we want it to be. And it takes some of these wake-up calls to say, hey, we're only here for a finite amount of time. What else should I be doing that I'm passionate about? And taking that leap, you know, you had a great job, right? There's no reason to leave. Like you said, it takes courage. And at times our family members are the ones that, you know, bless their heart. They don't, you know, they're wondering, why are you doing this? What's, you know, don't rock the boat. It's not sinking, right? Why go out and take that risk? But like you said, there's so many experiences out there that can allow us to grow and enrich our lives that are going to make us better. We don't always have that perfect line trajectory of our career, but being open to these opportunities, I think, is really important.
Yeah, look, and I think our that's our innate. You're with your kids; they're little now, right? And you see them running like maniacs. And what do you tend to tell them? Don't run.
Don't run. Don't get hurt.
Wait, don't run. You're gonna get hurt. And I think it comes through that lens, right? That no,
right.
Stay here. It's safe, right?
We become our parents.
You never want the people that you love, just like you don't want your kids to fall. But it's okay if they do. You'll pick them up and they'll run again, right? And I think that it comes sometimes from just that natural protective state of it. And I do think the pandemic, we opened up the show with talking about how the pandemic had some aha moments for people. And I think it did. For the first time, we paused enough just to reflect. And, you know, a lot is being written about the Great Resignation. And the Great Resignation just has a lot to do with folks saying, I don't want to do this job. I want to do a different job. It's not that they've left the workforce or they're not going to come back in the workforce in another way, but there's enough time to have this natural pause. Sometimes those tend to come in life and death situation. I think the pandemic, while it was life or death for many, for others it wasn't. It just gave us a time to reflect. Just because you weren't in the grind of a traffic for an hour and a half, and you realized, I don't want to do that. Realized we could have these conversations. We would have never had this probably podcast in this kind of way. We would have you might have launched your Game Changers in person at some studio, and now this is just as good and you reach more people. So I think that's the silver lining, is that with every change and risk is the evolution of something new and something great. And it's being optimistic to see it on that other side of it.
Well, congratulations, Madeline. You're doing some amazing things. Congratulations on your historic appointment. You are going to be such a great ambassador, not only to the students at MDC, but in South Florida in general and across the country. So thank you so much for being on the show and spending some time with me. I know you're quite busy. You're up in Tallahassee right now. You actually flew up this morning of the recording and coming to us from Tallahassee. So I appreciate your time and inspiration.
Thank you so much. It's a really privilege to come back home and give back to a community that I born and raised and feel so connected to.
So thank you so much for listening, everyone. Be a game changer in your life, push the envelope, and be a game changer in somebody else's life. Make sure you share this message with somebody who needs to hear it today, and we'll see you next week. If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.